Good morning, everybody. My name is Jody. My husband David John and I have a small farm in the panhandle of North Idaho. These are our stories and adventures. Today, as you see, we're out in the garden. When I was on the 3 weeks of mid-shift, the garden kind of got a little bit away from me in between the heavy rains we were getting, and then it would go super hot like it is right now. Some of the stuff did bolt, and it was quite literally, and I'll show you the bok choy here in a second behind you. It was pouring down rain. I came out and went, oh, I might as well pick it because it was just nice little heads about that big. I should pick that. And then the next day we got off work, came home to harvest it, and it had already gone stretch because it was bolting. Some of the radishes, I've got to get the radishes picked because some of them are bolting. The spinach went straight to bolt, and the saddest part, and I'll get one of these cut off and show you, is all of my cabbage is not forming heads because it's so hot that it's just stretching out, getting ready to bolt. So I'm going to have to go through and clean out all the cabbages in here. The broccoli, for the most part, is done. It's giving me what it's gonna. Just have to be careful because the cauliflower hasn't bolted yet, and it's just starting to form its flowers. So I'm going to go through and get this cleaned up. And I do have some squash planted in here and some squash seed planted, so I have to be kind of careful around those two. But then get this cleaned up and I'll be able to plant my tomatoes, which are well overdue for being in the ground. So show you guys what this mess looks like and the other stuff that's kind of bolting, and get some radishes picked, and then we'll work on getting duck food and goose food picked. Here's the status of the beds, and it's like, that's a cabbage. Oh no, that's probably a cauliflower. But all of these cabbages, you can see they're just not forming a head, they're just leafing right out. So I am going to leave the kohlrabi in just to see if I can get it to bulb up. It's like it's starting to bulb right there. But at least next year, I have these beds already in. I'll have them prepped in the fall. So early spring I can get this stuff in, and we'll get a good harvest next year. I know, it doesn't help me this year. But over here in the garlic potato bed, got my oregano and a foxglove. But the garlic is doing good. It's starting to form a scape. Don't need that. Or the bindweed. But those potatoes are doing good. I do have a sunflower growing up in there. And then I have 2 volunteer sunflowers in the walkway. And then a couple back along the fence with some foxglove. But in my shade bed that I filled with the pansies and violas, the hostas that I'd planted the year before, they are starting to come up. They're just way later than everything else. Strawberry bed, and they're starting to get fruit on them. The everbearing is a little further advanced than the June, but my bok choy, pretty flowers, not what I was wanting. But the Swiss chard kind of is stalled right there. The Reggae kale is doing good, but this spinach just went straight to bolt without getting any bigger than that. Got a few radishes down in here to pick. The French breakfast, let's see if we can. It's like the French breakfast down in there. They're needing to be picked. They're a good size. So I'm gonna go through and get those guys picked. The peas, most of the peas are doing good. All the lettuces are doing good. And I did go through and plant my vining green beans. And they're all starting to germinate along the fences. Like these ones here. And believe it or not, we have been harvesting the lettuce and eating it, even though it doesn't look like it. Out here in the 2-year-old garden, the cauliflower still looks good, but the broccoli is all bolting. So, and I did willy-nilly plant more seeds to start. They're starting to pop up. They'll really fill it in. And I planted more cucumber seeds just in case these plants didn't take to the transplant. And they all seem to be doing fine, and every single seed I started seems to have come up. So it's like got cucumber seeds coming up right underneath the little trellis I have for them. And I have been going through and working on getting the corn bed constantly weeded, trying to just keep the fennel from taking over. So it's looking pretty good. So the first set of beans and the second set of beans are starting to germinate. And even this one right here was frost damaged back. He's still going, and so is the little one next to him. But the corn is slowly getting there. It may be knee-high by 4th of July. Hopefully. So I'm going to go grab a wheelbarrow and do some harvesting, getting some bird food, and then we'll back and show you what it looks like and start getting these beds ready for planting my peppers in, because it's definitely warm enough for them. Well, may not be the biggest harvest of radishes in the world, but I would say it's probably the biggest I've ever gotten. Never had luck growing radishes, just like carrots, but my carrots are looking good. So got all the cabbage and broccoli pruned out. I did leave a couple cabbage heads just because they felt like they might be forming a head. But so all that's left is the kohlrabi and cauliflower. Show you what the beds look like. So they're just about ready for the tomatoes and peppers to go in. So here in this bed, I've got my green beans, cauliflower, a couple cauliflowers and squash, So the tomatoes will go along the back. I've got squash halfway up on this bed and this bed. I thought I'd planted some green beans in there, but since I'm not seeing any come up, I'm gonna have to start some more to finish off these ends. But let's look at the radish bed. So that's all cleaned out and ready. And I did pull the bok choy and the spinach. If nothing else, it was inexpensive bird food, and it worked kind of dual purpose. It worked as a cover crop, keeping the weed load down. But over in these beds, got the cauliflower, a couple kohlrabies there that may or may not be in the way for doing tomatoes. Same with this batch here, but this batch over here won't be in my way. So I still have the broccoli to clean out of the garden, but have several piles out in the yard, show you for the birds to gorge themselves on. Little pig pile. But this little mess was the radishes, and when I brought it out, it was in the shade. They really did a number on it. So I've got the cabbage pile there, a couple piles going on down there, and then a big one way out there. Look at this baby duck. Oh, it fell off. It was riding its mom's back. But once these piles get into the shade, the birds will really do a number on them. You guys want to see what the asparagus and the grapes look like? Not as... The asparagus kind of hit and miss on really coming up, but got it coming up. So got a few in that pot, just one in that one, a couple in that one, a couple in that, but don't those grapes look pretty? And these ones over here, starting to come along. And I'm just going to keep watering them, and hopefully more sprouts come up. The main thing is I just want to get the roots good and developed. Let's go over here in the shade. Well, this is where I'm going to end today's video. I hope you have a good day and a good week. And we're going to be ready to get the peppers and the tomatoes planted in the next day or two. Bye for now.